Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Jose Garcia, and in this video, I want to go over a couple of things with regards to the pattern. In NX, there are actually two types of patterns, and if you're looking at this video, you've probably already discovered them. There's the pattern feature, which is located up here, and then, of course, there's the pattern geometry. This video is going to mainly focus on the pattern feature, but the main difference between the pattern feature and the pattern geometry is this. Okay, I always explain it in this manner. Imagine that you're patterning a turbine blade. Are you really going to sit there and select every single feature that defines the turbine blade? No, right? Sometimes those features won't even work when it comes to patterning, right? In that case, you just want to take copies of the geometries of that turbine blade and pattern them. You don't really care how they were made, you just really care that you're patterning that particular geometry. And so that is what pattern geometry would do. It wouldn't really care about how something was made. It would just let you select the actual geometry, okay? But in this video, we're mainly going to focus on pattern feature. And what exactly does it do? So, if you look over here on my screen, I have this very simple flange here. Okay, it has a half-inch socket head screw clearance hole, and I want to go ahead and take this son of a gun and pattern it. Okay, so if you select the part navigator, the feature from the part navigator, like so, okay, you can go ahead and then immediately select the pattern feature, just like that. Now, this window is a little bit massive, but don't worry, it's not that difficult to grasp. As you can see here, I want you to select the feature to pattern. I already did that. If you didn't do that, just go ahead and select it from here, okay? The layout, we're going to go ahead and change this guy over to circular, okay? Now, a lot of people, when I train these courses, get a little confused, and they immediately go into specifying a vector. But the problem is that this thing here is not in yellow, right? I always tell people the context needs to be in yellow before you go in there and select anything, right? So I'm going to go ahead and hit specify vector here, just like that. And I can select the whole wall here. Okay, so as you can see, I already have a hole here. I can just select that whole wall. It'll allow me to use its center line as its axis of revolution. And of course, we have our spacing, right? And these don't really need an introduction here. Count and pitch, count and span, and pitch and span, and finally list over here, okay? We're going to talk about list in another video, but for now, all we're going to use is count and span, all right? All you need to do is tell it how many instances you want and how much these instances should span by, okay? So in this case, I want it to span the whole 360 degrees of the circle here. So I'm going to go ahead and enter 360 degrees, as you can see right there, okay? Now, if you enter 180, it'll only pattern it up to the half mark of that circle, right? Because that's the degree of the circle. Of course, you can change this guy here to count and pitch, right? So what this will do is it will take the number of instances and span them by the pitch angle that you specify. So since we already had 360 degrees in here, it just took that 360 degrees and divided it by 12. It, of course, gives us 30 right here. So you can see that every 30 degrees, it gives you one instance until it reaches 12, okay? And, of course, the other one, count and pitch, pitch and span, you can define a couple more extra things here, as you can see right there, all right? My favorite, though, is, of course, count and span. I seem to have a pretty good understanding of that one. Create concentric members. Okay, so if you want to add additional instances of this pattern, all you have to do is turn this guy on. So watch what happens when I turn it on. Boop, see that? So it gives you additional instances spaced away at a certain distance, right? So I have this set to count and pitch. Of course, if I hit this include first circle option here, then it counts that as one instance, okay? I'm going to turn that on. I usually like to leave that on. The count, of course, we have 2 right now. See, 1, 2. If I change it to 3, then it gives me 3 concentric members. Of course, I'm patterning outside at this point, but I'm just showing you what this button does. And then, of course, if you enter 4, it just keeps going and going, right? The pitch distance, of course, is the distance from one concentric member to the other. That would be 1 inch. All right. Now, some people, when they do this type of pattern, they like to do a pattern that is kind of staggered. You can actually do that. I believe that is found in the pattern settings here. Okay, so see how all of these are spaced away 1 inch very nicely, but they all just follow one simple line. Of course, if you go to the stagger here and set it to angle, it automatically staggers them by 45 degrees, as you can see right there. As far as I'm aware, there really is no way to control this stagger angle, but that is a very nice way of doing it. Of course, I'm going to turn this off, and I'm also going to turn off concentric members here. Okay. Over here, we're going to take a look at use spreadsheet next, but for now, we'll skip it. Follow face, if you have a contoured surface, then of course you would use follow face, so that way it's always normal to the surface. Okay. And then this one down here, the pattern method is pretty important. Okay. There are 3 types of pattern methods, and quite honestly, I only either use 2. I use either variational or single. Variational, what this allows you to do is it allows you to use the whole call out on any child pattern, okay, if you do a drawing or a PMI model, right? I don't know if you are experienced with NX, but if you've ever done a drawing and you try to do a whole call out on a child, sometimes it just doesn't let you, and that's because you're not using variational, okay? Single will be a little bit more lightweight, okay? It doesn't really use the whole command to execute your pattern. It just kind of does a surface type of thing. Of course, with that in mind, it doesn't carry over any of the information for the whole. So if you try to do a whole call out on it, it will not let you do that. It only lets you do the parents, okay? So needless to say, variational will take the longest, whereas single will take the smallest amount of time, okay? Let's go with variational here. There's only 10 holes. We don't need to worry about that. So let's go ahead and hit OK and watch what happens. Give it a couple seconds here. And as you can see, the holes are indeed created. Okay. Now, if I go over here into the PMI application very quickly, I can prove to you that I can do the hole call out on any hole here. So if I come over here and do a hole and thread call out, which I'm sure I'll find, there it is. You can see that it lets me pick any hole no matter what. See that? Whereas if you choose single, it will not let you do that. It only let you pick the parent hole there. Okay? So that's one instance of the pattern working very nicely. It's pretty straightforward, but sometimes you need a little extra spice in the pattern. Okay? So that's where this guy comes into play. Okay? Let's say that we want to, take this 250 thou hole and pattern it linearly in, let's say the x-axis. But as it goes in the x-axis, it needs to alter its size, okay? Okay, let's go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and hit the pattern feature command right there, all right? In this case, the layout is going to be a linear option, right? We're not going to do a circular option anymore. Specify vector, okay, let's go ahead and use the x-axis here of our Orient Express tool. There it is right there. It's these little purple vectors right there. And of course, we have our count and pitch over here, okay? Now, before I go in there and, kind of fill this out, let me just see what number I put in here. So 6 inches, okay. So I'll use a distance of 6 inches to span them very nicely, okay? That way, I can have a nice amount of instances that are spaced evenly. Okay, so I'll do a count and span. My span will be, my count will be 4, and then my span distance will be 6 inches. Okay, so always remember that the parent counts as 1 instance. Just keep that in mind. Okay. Symmetric over here, if you turn this on, of course, it'll give you the pattern on the other side. I'm not going to do that. I just want to show you what it does. All right. And then you got this guy right here, pattern increments. All right. So if your pattern needs to increase in a linear fashion, then pattern increment will work great for you. All you would have to do is just hit the little button that says pattern increment. And as you can see, it lists all of the parameters of the thing you're patterning. In this case, I happen to have the 250 thou hole. I can click the diameter there and hit add a new set. from here, I can go ahead and enter a number. Let's say that it needs to increase by, say, another 250 thou. So I'll enter 0.25 inches there. So what it's going to do is it's going to go from this hole to this hole here. This one's going to be 750 thou. I'm sorry, 500 thou. Then this one over here is going to be 750 thou. And then this one's going to be 1 inch. Okay. If I hit OK on that, I can just hit show result down here to see what it's going to look like. Let's take a look. And as you can see, sure enough, it is getting larger and larger as it moves along. Now, this is great for very simple linear patterns, but sometimes this isn't enough, right? It's like, well, I don't really like it too much. I kind of want to have a little bit more control. So I'll hit undo result right there. And of course, I'll go back to the pattern increment and get rid of it by hitting the little remove button there. Okay. So then from here, I can go ahead and hit this little button that says use spreadsheet. Okay, now I don't remember if this computer has Excel, but let's find out. At some point, it will bring out the Excel sheet. So it does have Excel right here. Okay, as you can see, not only can you control the offset, but you can also control the diameter as well. So you don't have to have a linear pattern for your offset. You can have it as convoluted as you want. Okay. I'll leave the offset alone though. Let's say that, this one over here needs to be 0.5. This one right here maybe needs to be 0.625, right? So it's not following anything in particular. Okay. And then this one over here maybe needs to be 1.125, just like that. All right. There we go. Once you're happy with the inputs of your pattern, all you have to do is just close this guy out. And then it says, do you want to save the current spreadsheet data? I'll go ahead and say yes or okay on that. And then give it a couple of seconds. And in a second, you will see that it lists the corresponding row that affects our piece here. Okay. Of course, I can hit show result there. And as you can see, sure enough, it is following our nice spreadsheet. Okay. So this is the first video that I'm going to do on the pattern here. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to do a boundary pattern, which will be a little bit more complicated. And then we'll also take a look at some of the other options in this menu. Okay. But with that being said, hopefully you guys learned something. Take care. Bye-bye.